Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of fascinating source material in front of us today, and it's taking us down a bit of a rabbit hole connecting blockchain, community governance, and, well, furniture.
Yes, furniture. Not the usual topic, maybe, but surprisingly interesting when you dig into it.
Absolutely. We're doing a deep dive into something called Decentralized Autonomous Furniture Organizations, or DAMOs for short.
Right. Think of it as taking those DAO principles, decentralized autonomous organizations from the crypto world, and applying them specifically to physical stuff, like the chairs, desks, sofas you find in shared spaces.
Co-working offices, student dorms, community centers, that kind of thing. Managed by the users, transparently, using blockchain. It sounds pretty wild.
It definitely has that futuristic feel.
So our mission here is really to cut through the buzzwords, pull out the core ideas from these sources we have, and understand the potential of this phygital integration.
That blend of physical and
Yeah.
digital, yeah.
Yeah. And figure out what it would actually take to make this work. Could it really change how we manage shared things, build ownership, improve sustainability, maybe even reduce waste? Let's unpack it.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
So, at its heart, what is the DAMO, really? Can you break that down simply?
Sure. It's basically a specialized type of DAO. So instead of managing, say, a crypto protocol or digital funds, a DAMO is set up specifically for collective oversight of physical assets, furniture, mainly in these shared environments.
So distributed control, not one central manager.
Exactly. The control, the decision-making, it rests with the community that actually uses the furniture.
And the philosophy behind it
Yeah.
sounds very DAO-like, right?
Oh, absolutely. The core principles are definitely there. You've got decentralization decisions about the furniture, buying new stuff, repairs, allocation.
Yeah.
It's all done by the members collectively.
Okay.
Then there's transparency. Every single action, proposals, votes, decisions, it's all recorded on a public blockchain. Immutable, verifiable, anyone can see it.
Right, that audit trail.
And crucially, community ownership. If you hold the DAMOS tokens, you're not just a user. You have a direct stake, actual voting power over that shared furniture pool.
That really shifts the dynamic, doesn't it? Empowering the users.
It aims to, yeah, giving power to the people who interact with these assets every day.
Okay, but why is this even needed? What's wrong with, the way things usually work in shared spaces?
Well, think about your typical co-working space or maybe a dorm lounge. Furniture often doesn't get used efficiently, or maybe it's not quite right for the space.
Sure, you see that a lot. The lonely armchair in the corner.
Exactly. And when something breaks, who's actually responsible? Accountability can be fuzzy.
Yeah, usually it just sits there broken for ages.
Right. Maintenance is often reactive. It only happens after it's obviously damaged. And users, they rarely get a say in what furniture is bought or how it's managed day to day.
Which leads to,
Well, the sources point to inefficiency, a lack of care sometimes, faster wear and tear, and ultimately, a lot of furniture ending up in landfills way too early. Furniture that could potentially be repaired or repurposed.
so DAMOs are proposing a fundamentally different approach.
Yes, exactly. A transparent, community-driven alternative. The idea is if you give users a real stake and a voice, you foster more collective responsibility. That should lead to better care, smarter use, and hopefully longer lifespans for the furniture itself.
All right, let's get into the tech then.
Yeah.
How do you actually connect this digital organization, the DAO, to a physical sofa or desk? That's the mind-bending part for me.
Yeah, that's the core of the phygital layer, as you called it. The foundation is definitely blockchain, and smart contracts, they automate the rules. But the key is representing those physical items, the furniture, in the digital world.
Like giving each chair its own digital identity on the blockchain. A digital twin.
Precisely. That's done through tokenization, usually using non-fungible tokens, NFTs.
Okay, NFTs. So not just for digital art.
Not at all. Here, an NFT represents one specific, unique physical piece of furniture. It's not legal ownership like a title deed, maybe, but it's immutable proof of its identity and its history within the DAMO system. And what's really powerful is that these NFTs can store rich metadata.
Like what kind of data?
Oh, things like who made it, when it was bought, maintenance records, its history of use within the DAMO. It creates this transparent, verifiable life cycle record for every single item.
That's huge for tracking.
Yeah.
The sources even mentioned composable NFTs for modular furniture. That sounds layered.
It is, but it's quite clever. Imagine a sofa made of different sections.
Okay.
The main sofa could be the parent NFT, and then each cushion, each armrest could be a linked child NFT.
So you can track individual components.
Exactly, which is super useful for things like targeted maintenance or even just understanding which parts wear out fastest and need replacing or redesigning.
Okay, but the NFT is still digital. How does the demo know what's actually happening with the real chair? Is it being used right now? Is it damaged?
Right, that's the crucial link, the Internet of Things or IoT,
Sensors.
embedded sensors, yeah,
Yeah.
directly in the furniture. These can collect real-time data usage, frequency, location, maybe even detect unusual vibrations suggesting damage, or if it's tilted over.
And this data gets sent where?
Securely transmitted and recorded, often linked to the blockchain or directly interacting with the smart contracts.
If the furniture is constantly reporting back to the digital system.
In a sense, yes. And this verifiable real-world data is what can trigger actions within the smart contracts.
Exactly.
Well, say sensor data shows a specific chair is getting way more use than others, or maybe it detects stress patterns indicating potential damage. A smart contract could automatically create a maintenance proposal or even allocate funds from the demo treasury for a checkup or repair.
Without a human needing to spot the problem first.
Exactly. It shifts furniture management from being reactive and subjective to being proactive, data-driven, and potentially automated.
Turning static furniture into, well, genuinely smart assets.
That's the idea. And developers looking to build this aren't starting completely from scratch. The sources mention existing tools.
Like what?
Things like Open Zeppelin for secure smart contract development using pre-audited code, frameworks like Aragon, which are specifically designed for building DAOs, and tools like Safe, formerly Gnosis, Safe for secure multi-sig wallets to manage the community treasury.
So the building blocks are there.
Many of them are, yes,
Yeah.
making this technically feasible, at least in principle.
Okay, so we have the digital representation, the IoT data stream,
Mm.
but people still need to make decisions.
Yeah.
How does governance work in a demo, especially when you're dealing with tangible physical things?
Yeah, effective governance is absolutely critical here, maybe even more so than with purely digital DAOs.
Why more so?
Because if a bad decision gets made, say a malicious proposal gets approved, the consequences are physical. You could misallocate valuable furniture, approve unnecessary spending, maybe even facilitate theft. It's much harder to undo than a purely digital transaction.
Right, you can't just roll back a stolen chair.
Pretty much.
The common DAO voting method is token-weighted, right? More tokens, more votes. How does that work here?
That's often the starting point, yeah. It's simple, and the logic is that those with more tokens have a bigger stake, so they're more incentivized to make good decisions for the furniture pool.
But the immediate red flag is whales, isn't it? People accumulating tons of tokens and dominating the votes.
That's the major vulnerability, absolutely. Whale interests might not align with the everyday users, and maybe even more concerning is the risk of flash loan attacks.
Explain those quickly.
Someone borrows a huge amount of tokens, votes on a proposal, maybe executes something harmful like draining the treasury, and repays the loan all within a single blockchain transaction. It happens almost instantaneously.
That sounds terrifying for a system managing real money for physical assets. How do DAMOs fight back against that?
This is where the sources emphasize using alternative or, more likely, hybrid governance mechanisms, things designed for more resilience.
Okay, like what?
Well, instead of just one token, one vote, you could use quadratic voting.
How does that work?
The cost of each additional vote you cast on a single proposal increases quadratically. So your first vote costs 1 token, your second vote costs 4 tokens, your third costs 9, and so on.
So you could express strong preference, but it gets very expensive to dominate.
Exactly. It helps mitigate that tyranny of the majority or a single whale overwhelming everyone else. It measures intensity of preference better.
What about encouraging long-term thinking, not just short-term gain?
That's where something like conviction voting comes in. Your voting power on a specific proposal actually grows the longer you lock or stake your tokens in support of it.
So it rewards commitment.
Precisely. It makes it incredibly hard for a flash loan attacker who only holds tokens momentarily to gain any significant influence. It favors the long-term committed members.
And what if people just don't vote? Apathy is a big problem in DAOs.
Yeah, that's always a risk. Delegated governance is one approach. You can delegate your voting power to an active member you trust to vote on your behalf. Helps keep things moving.
And for the really critical stuff, like spending money from the treasury.
Multi-sig approval is pretty much essential. You need a multi-signature wallet, like Safe, where, say, 5 out of 7 designated trusted individuals have to digitally sign off before any funds can be moved.
An extra layer of human oversight.
A crucial one. It protects against automated attacks or a single compromised key.
So the flow is, someone proposes something about the furniture, the community votes using maybe a mix of these methods, and if it passes, a smart contract makes it happen.
That's the gist of it. Proposals could be anything from fund repairs for the sofa to buy 10 new desks. Voting happens maybe off-chain first, using tools like Snapshot to save costs, then recording the result on-chain, and the smart contract executes the outcome, transferring funds, updating an NFT status, whatever's needed.
Even with these safeguards, what are the governance challenges specific to DAMOs because of the physical aspect?
They're amplified, really. Whales are still a threat they could push for decisions benefiting them personally, maybe regarding furniture placement or type. Low participation is still a risk, concentrating power. Strategic voting people gaming the system can happen.
And those attacks.
Flash loans are a constant worry for purely token-weighted parts of the system. And Sybil attacks, one person creating lots of fake identities, are a real concern, especially if membership is tied to physical presence. How do you stop someone creating 10 accounts to get 10 votes?
How do you fight similar attacks in this context?
It's tricky. The sources mention things like using snapshot voting, which takes a snapshot of token holdings before the vote starts, neutralizing tokens borrowed during the vote. Time-weighted voting, or requiring tokens to be held for a minimum period, also defend against flash loans. For Sybil resistance itself, you might need proof-of-personhood systems verifying unique humans, though that has privacy issues.
Or maybe simpler things.
Yeah, like requiring a small economic stake to propose or vote, creating friction, or linking demo membership to an existing verified community roster, perhaps.
So resilient, maybe layered governance is non-negotiable?
Absolutely. Mistakes or attacks hit the real world hard.
Okay, so governance is complex. But even with good governance, disputes are bound to happen with shared physical stuff, right? Damage, misuse. How does a DAMO handle that? Smart contracts can't make subjective judgments.
You've nailed a key limitation. Code is deterministic. It can't look at a photo of a scratch and decide who's at fault, or if it's just normal wear and tear.
So what's the solution?
This is where decentralized dispute resolution (DDR) mechanisms come in. They're designed to bridge that gap.
How do they work? Bringing humans back into it.
Essentially, yes, but in a structured, decentralized way. The process is managed by smart contracts for fairness, but the actual judgment on a specific case is made by humans, often crowdsourced jurors.
And the sources highlight Claros as a major example.
Right. Claros is probably the best-known decentralized court system. It uses jurors who stake Claros's own token, PNK.
How does that work? A dispute gets filed.
Exactly. It's submitted to a smart contract integrated with Claros. Jurors are randomly selected. They review the evidence, photos, logs, maybe even IoT data, and vote on the outcome based on pre-agreed rules for that type of dispute.
What keeps the jurors honest? Why wouldn't they just vote randomly?
Economic incentives. It's quite clever, actually. Jurors are rewarded for voting coherently, meaning voting in line with the eventual consensus reached by the majority. If you vote incoherently against the final outcome, you lose some of your staked PNK tokens. Those lost tokens get redistributed to the jurors who voted coherently.
Ah, so there's a financial incentive to judge fairly and reasonably.
Yes, it strongly encourages thoughtful deliberation and discourages malicious or lazy voting.
So a DAMO could plug into Claros to handle, say, a dispute over who damaged a desk.
Precisely. The dispute gets escalated via smart contract to Claros. Evidence is presented, jurors rule, and the outcome, maybe making a member pay a repair fee from an escrow deposit, is enforced by the DAMO smart contracts.
Having that fair process seems crucial for trust.
Absolutely. It's vital for managing the inevitable bumps when dealing with shared physical resources.
Okay, structure, tech, governance, disputes. But none of this works long-term if people aren't motivated to participate positively, right? Let's talk incentives and tokenomics.
Right. Sustainable incentives are the lifeblood. Tokenomics is all about designing the DAMO's native token, how it works, what it does to encourage the right behaviors, build the community, and make the whole system self-sustaining.
So what's the token used for in a DAMO?
Well, primarily governance rights, proposing and voting. It could also be staked for certain roles, maybe like being a Claros juror if the DAMO uses it, and of course distributing rewards for beneficial actions.
The token needs real utility, not just speculation.
Exactly. It has to have a practical function within the DAMO ecosystem to have lasting value.
And good design can create network effects.
Definitely.
Hmm.
As more people participate and contribute positively, the shared resource improves, making the demo more valuable and attractive, drawing in more users. Incentives can kickstart that positive feedback loop.
But here's the really tricky bit, I think. How do you incentivize physical actions? Getting someone to actually wipe down a shared table or tighten a loose screw, that feels much harder than rewarding a digital vote.
It's a huge challenge bridging digital rewards to real-world effort. The sources mention parallels with things like proof-of-workout protocols in Web3 fitness apps.
Where they use tracker data to verify exercise.
Yeah. So for DAMOs, you need a sort of proof-of-furniture care protocol.
Okay, how would that work?
You define specific physical tasks: cleaning, minor repairs, organizing, reporting issues accurately. You'd link token rewards to completing these tasks. Verification is the tough part. Maybe IoT sensors could confirm certain things, like if a cleaning cycle was run on a smart device or usage patterns change after a reported fix.
Or maybe rely on the community?
That's another possibility: community attestation. Maybe 2 or 3 other members need to digitally sign off, confirming they saw the task completed. Obviously, that has its own challenges.
So the tokenomics has to reward tangible, real-world contributions.
That's the goal: to directly incentivize the actions that maintain and improve the shared furniture. It's key to tackling that tragedy of the commons problem, where everyone uses the resource but no one maintains it. But the reward balance has to be carefully designed to be sustainable.
Wow, designing this whole system, rules, incentives, user behavior, sounds incredibly complex. How do you even know if it will work before you launch it?
You simulate it. Simulation and modeling are crucial before deploying something this complex in the real world. It helps you understand the dynamics, spot potential problems, and mitigate risks.
Yeah, the sources mention agent-based modeling and simulation, ABMS. What's that?
Right. ABMS is a powerful technique. You build a computer model with autonomous agents,
The agents representing.
different types of demo users, maybe active voters, passive users, potential free riders. You can even model the furniture items themselves. Each agent is programmed with specific behaviors and motivations based on the demo's proposed rules and incentives.
And then you just let them loose in the simulation.
Pretty much. You run the simulation and watch how the system evolves. You can ask questions like, if we offer X tokens for cleaning, how many agents actually do it? How does that impact the overall cleanliness score from simulated sensors? What happens if a whale agent enters? How do voting outcomes change compared to a more distributed ownership scenario?
So it's like a virtual test lab for your demo rules.
Exactly. It lets you experiment safely. Does this incentive create a weird loophole? Does this governance rule lead to gridlock? Is the system vulnerable to this specific attack? You can test it all out.
And this links back to older ideas too.
Yes, it connects directly to the study of Common Pool Resource Management, or CPR. People like Eleanor Ostrom studied how communities successfully manage shared resources. Shared furniture is a CPR, prone to the tragedy of the commons.
So ABMS lets you simulate Ostrom's principles in this new tech context.
Precisely. You can model how different rules for monitoring, enforcement, and graduated sanctions, key elements Ostrom identified, play out in a demo simulation.
Are there specific tools for this kind of simulation?
Yes, there are general ABM platforms like NetLogo or Meson, and increasingly, tools are emerging specifically designed for simulating blockchain systems, token flows, and smart contract interactions.
Okay, let's pull back for the bigger picture. How do DAMOs fit into wider trends like the sharing economy and, importantly, sustainability?
This is where the potential impact really scales up. The furniture industry,
Yeah.
it's a massive source of waste.
I saw a staggering statistic in the sources.
Yeah, something like 12.2 million tons of furniture ending up in U.S. landfills annually. Over 80% of discarded furniture. It's huge.
Just incredible waste.
It really is. Now, furniture rental and sharing models are already pushing towards a more circular economy, keeping things in use longer.
And DAMOs can boost that.
They can provide the tech infrastructure to really accelerate it. Think about it. Immutable lifecycle records on the blockchain, transparent tracking, real-time condition monitoring via IoT, predictive maintenance triggered by smart contracts. DAMOs are perfectly positioned to drive a true furniture-as-a-service model. It's not just about using furniture differently, it's about building a verifiable system to maximize lifespan, make repair easier, and manage end-of-life responsibly. That directly cuts waste and the associated carbon footprint.
The sources also stress the social impact. drawing on examples like Furniture Bank.
Absolutely. Their work shows real, tangible social benefits. In 2023, they diverted over 47,000 furniture items from landfill. That's nearly 1,000 metric tons of waste avoided. Thousands of tons of CO2 emissions abated. Impressive numbers.
But the human side, too.
Even more profound, perhaps. Furnishing an apartment is expensive, right? Thousands of dollars easily. For low-income families, that's a huge barrier.
So sharing makes it accessible.
Drastically. It addresses furniture poverty. Having basic furniture, a bed to sleep on, a table to eat at, isn't a luxury. It impacts sleep, stress, mental health, dignity, stability. The sources noted agencies reporting that 85% of clients who got furniture from Furniture Bank had improved housing stability. That's significant.
And DAMOs could amplify this.
By decentralizing access and fostering that community ownership, yes, they could strengthen communities built around these shared resources.
So beyond managing existing furniture, can DAMOs actually foster innovation?
Yeah, that's another exciting angle. They could become hubs for decentralized innovation, especially around open source furniture design.
How would that work?
A DAMO could use its treasury, governed by the members, to fund the development of new open source furniture designs. Blockchain could track intellectual property contributions transparently. Smart contracts could even automate royalty payments back to the designers whenever furniture based on their open design is made or used within the network.
This sounds like that emailing chairs concept.
Exactly. Ideas from projects like OLIP or @FB. You distribute the digital design file, maybe for a chair you can cut on a CNC router or 3D print directly to local makerspaces or manufacturers.
So you manufacture locally, on demand.
Right. It democratizes manufacturing, cuts shipping costs and emissions, and allows for customized, repairable furniture.
So the DAMO becomes a sort of decentralized R&D lab and design commons.
Precisely. Incentivizing designers for sustainable, modular, repairable designs. Incentivizing local makers. Incentivizing users for feedback. It could lead to a more resilient, localized, and sustainable furniture ecosystem.
This is a really compelling vision, touching tech, governance, sustainability, social impact, innovation. But it also sounds incredibly challenging to implement. What are the main hurdles?
Oh, there are definitely significant challenges. Technically, smart contract bugs are always a risk. Security audits are non-negotiable. Scalability could be an issue with lots of items and IoT data. Integrating diverse IoT devices securely is complex.
And governance.
Still potent risks. Centralization by whales. Voter apathy leading to paralysis. Strategic voting. Flash loans and Sybil attacks need constant defense, especially with physical assets on the line.
What about the legal side? Is this even legal?
That's a huge question mark. The legal status of DAOs is murky and varies everywhere. Liability for injuries caused by shared furniture, token taxation, NFT recognition for physical assets, lots of unanswered questions.
And just verifying real-world action seems tough.
It is. How do you reliably verify that a cleaning task was done properly? Prevent false damage claims. Robust Sybil resistance for physical contributions is hard.
So given all that, what are the key recommendations from the sources to make this actually happen?
They suggest a pragmatic approach. Start small, a phased rollout. Test in a single co-working space or dorm first. Learn, iterate. Don't try to build a citywide demo overnight. Makes sense. Use hybrid governance from the outset. Combine mechanisms for security and participation. Prioritize rock-solid smart contract development. Use audited libraries. Have a clear IoT blockchain integration strategy. Crucially, align the tokenomics incentives very carefully with desired real-world behaviors. Reward the physical upkeep. And integrate dispute resolution like Claros early on to build trust.
It sounds like the potential is huge, the blueprint exists, but execution needs extreme care and probably more research.
Absolutely. We'll likely need advancements in phygital asset standards, better IoT, maybe AI for predictive maintenance, more refined simulation tools, better privacy-preserving verification. It's an evolving space.
So wrapping this up, DAMOs offer a really compelling alternative future for managing shared physical things.
They really do. Using blockchain, smart contracts, IoT, it's a potentially transformative approach.
Yeah.
Better resource use, real community ownership, major sustainability benefits.
The challenges are real, no doubt, but the core idea is leverage powerful emerging technologies.
Yeah, this model could genuinely redefine how we interact with shared spaces and assets, putting collaboration and sustainability right at the center.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. If this decentralized, community-owned model could work for furniture, what other shared physical assets in your community, maybe tools, bikes, gardening equipment, could benefit from a similar DAMO approach? Something to think about.